Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, episode number 12. Asif, my name's Rob Woodbridge. I can't believe we've been doing this for 12 weeks.
It's and it's as we say often, there's no shortage of stories to talk about. So it's I'm not surprised we're here, but hopefully people keep listening. So
12 weeks, man. Not consecutive, because we took one off at Christmas, because
yeah, we got to take a little holiday now and then. So,
but 12 weeks. Congratulations on that. It's some kind of milestone. As we said, we'll celebrate when we get to 100. But 12 weeks in a row, episode number 12, and none of them have been boring, according to us.
According to us, yeah. So,
obviously, my name is Rob Woodbridge. I run something called Untether.tv, and I'm joined by my good friend
Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association.
That's at thelbma.com. And we here strive to give you the best news, the most relevant news in the location-based marketing world of the week that was, and get you set for the week that's about to come. So you're listening to this either on the drive-in on Monday morning, which is what we hope, or on Tuesday or on Wednesday. But whenever you're listening to this, reach out on that phone. You've got a device that actually allows you to use that thing called Twitter, jump on, make some comments, some posts, email it to somebody else. Give us some feedback. We'd really appreciate hearing from you all about what we're doing here. It's lonely on a Sunday night. Very lonely. So lots obviously gone on in last week. We got the Grammys tonight. Lots of big winners. Lots of Canadians, I got to say, that are in the middle of this thing.
Apparently Eminem's taking it all, so we'll see.
Oh, he is, eh? Well, yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Michael Jackson winning one. And there's a couple of Canadians in there. I got to say, there's that guy, that Bieber fella.
Yes, that Bieber guy. Yeah.
The Bieber guy, and there's a guy named Bublé, Bieber and Bublé. And I'm trying to think if there's another B somewhere in there. And there's that kid named Drake from Toronto. Right? So there's some, and Neil Young is up for a bunch of Grammys. So look at that. Canada is all over the map here. Hey,
we're representing. It's a year since we had the Olympics, so we got to do something, right?
A year yesterday, that's right. That's year right. Since, yes. I think that Vancouver is suffering through post-Olympic depression because they're still wandering around with the flags. I saw a pretty sad scene on Friday when they were filming a bunch of people commemorating the first year since the Olympics, and they're still wandering around with the flags and stuff. I like patriotic Canadians like that, but it's over, Vancouver. Let's move on. So, great week last week, obviously. Tons of stuff happening, but it seems like the same players keep coming up. Does that mean that what we're doing here is that it's actually we're defining the leaders that are in this space? Do you think that's what is going on here?
Well, you're having certain companies that are continuing to try and stay relevant. Not innovate, because we know they don't do that, but are certainly trying to keep up with each other. Add a feature here, extend a function there. Whether that's something to talk about or not, I don't know. But they're trying to stay alive and trying to grow, and so it's something to talk about.
Well. So one of those companies, obviously, that you can't not talk about, especially in the location-based marketing world, is Foursquare. So we're going to start this off because a week ago tonight, that thing called the Super Bowl happened, which went very well for one team and didn't go so well for another.
It was a good game. I watched the game.
It was a very good game.
It was didn't look good for a bit, and then it was close, and then ultimately the Packers pulled it out. So,
well, and that's interesting because I saw you checked in to the Super Bowl. I checked in to the Super Bowl, and apparently quite a few people checked in to the Super Bowl, even if they weren't at the Super Bowl.
Right. So we talked last week about this idea that Foursquare launched in conjunction, in time for the Super Bowl. This idea of what they call a promoted venue, so you can check into a place that you're not actually at. In other words, we weren't actually physically at the Super Bowl, but because we were watching it at home, we could see it as a trending topic, and we can check into it that way. And apparently, some 200,000 people checked in virtually, not counting the people who were physically there. So
it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It's the U.S.
It's so 200,000 people checked in, but it's like the numbers that they're talking about, 200,000 people checked in. From all 50 states, 125 countries, and 13 check-ins from the Vatican.
Yeah, apparently they like their football in the Vatican. So,
well, I know we did have a comment last week about that story from Matthew Hooper, who believes that check-in is just a status update to a non-human social object, and he sees that there's obviously going to be many more of these things coming along. When it comes to checking into a product, checking into a location that you're not there, or even just checking in to a brand, which we've seen some of the companies do. And so it says that he says that the challenge with any of these, from an advertiser's perspective, is more people are worried about telling others where they are or what they're doing, and fewer people are listening and watching. So what's the net effect of kind of an ad impression? And it's a good point, is that so many people are checking in, nobody's really listening. I can check into any Starbucks, or I can check into the Super Bowl, and you know what? I didn't get a note or a discount for any of this kind of stuff that I could actually use because I wasn't in the States. But good point, Matthew. We know that this is going to be a dominant platform going forward. Whether people can actually make money off of it or leverage this properly. Yeah,
and just one last point on that, on the Foursquare Super Bowl check-ins. Yeah. The data does say that more Packers fans checked in than Steelers fans. So I don't know what that actually means. Whether or not Packers fans are have more smartphones than Steeler fans, or they're more of them using Foursquare, or with some of the data we saw earlier this week that younger men are checking in more than any other demographic. But whatever it is, there was more Packers fans than Steelers fans. So
it's pretty good. They did a good job, and maybe that predicted the game as well, the outcome of the game. I don't know. So the other news, that was just a precursor, because the real news that we wanted to get to was that this Sony and Foursquare relationship that they've developed in Europe. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing, because it's somewhat similar to like the Facebook deals announcement a couple of weeks ago. So effectively what they're saying, and this is a European relationship. Yep. So Foursquare's teamed up with Sony. It has to do with Sony's, not all of Sony's product offerings, but specifically their 3D line of televisions, Blu-ray players, and so on and so forth. And effectively, it's tied to checking in at places that carry these 3D TVs and stuff, and offering quite significant deals on them.
So this is just it's funny, but why go through the whole rigmarole of an announcement? Is this just media trying to get earned media or non-earned media because you can check in at Sony stores and get discounts? Like, this sounds like it's pretty much the
I don't think there's anything unique about it at all. I mean, what's so special about that? I mean, I think the difference here is if there is one, and I'm reaching, to pull it out here. The difference here is that it's a consumer, consumer electronics manufacturer that's directly teamed up with Foursquare, because a lot of the other deals we've seen have been the retailers themselves. Yeah. Whether that's the Gap or
Best Buy or whatever.
Best Buy or whoever. Yeah, so Best Buy would be a good one in this context. So in this case, it's not Best Buy teaming up with Foursquare. Even though Best Buy carries the Sony TVs, it's Sony themselves. Yeah. And
only Sony stores.
Yes.
So if you walk into a Best Buy and you're checking into Best Buy, you're not going to get that discount from the Sony from the Bravia TV.
Right.
But it just again. Maybe we should move on to the next story, because again, it just seems like it's newsworthy because Sony's doing it. It's not so newsworthy because everybody else is doing it as well. Ultimately,
right? Yeah, and I understand. Well, from what Sony's saying, this is kind of the first of a series of things they're doing, over the rest of this year. So it's starting with this 3D line of TVs and so on. They plan on extending it to their Vio laptop offerings and so on, throughout the rest of the year. So, and whether this is contained to just the Sony stores, or they're going to extend it out to other retailers that carry the product, who knows? But again, nothing really all that innovative here, other than it's a direct relationship between Foursquare and an electronics manufacturer.
Well, I like it. And Sony's been known to do these things. Like Sony did the relationship with James Bond for GoldenEye, and they released a special edition Sony Vaio with the GoldenEye Sony Vaio, which is a little tiny little laptop. So they're not afraid of trying things that are new. But it just this isn't so new because their retailers have been doing this for quite some time now.
Yeah, no, they're catching up.
And one of the big things is that they're not just giving a discount for the mayor, are they? They're giving a discount if you just check in. You don't have to be
it's
mayor.
for everybody. Yeah, it is for everybody.
So maybe that's a switch, and that's what we should focus on in the story here, is that maybe the mayor isn't as important as people think.
Yeah. I'm constantly fighting for those mayorships.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was, but yeah.
My number one stat that I track these days is mayorship turnover.
Is that it? It's like, it's competitive, and that person's in there with you. So you're sitting in a Starbucks, and that person is in there that just took your mayorship from you. I'm gonna go.
I'm kidding. Anyways,
so am I.
Let's move on to the next thing.
So, speaking of mayors and location-based marketing, let's talk about Scavenger. Our good friends Seth Prebatch doing his stuff again. This really shows when you got a lot of money, when you get the amount of money, you can really be aggressive.
And these guys, I love these guys. I mean, because they actually, constantly are trying to do new things. Yep. It may be not that innovative what they're doing, but they're at least making an effort to actually use that money somewhat wisely and foster some pretty cool partnerships.
But so this is great, because back in the old feature phone days, getting this done on a feature phone was a golden handshake with the carriers and the manufacturers. If you got preloaded, it was a golden thing. So let's talk about what they're doing with Virgin.
Yeah, so there's an announcement this week that they've basically preloaded Scavenger on the LG Optimus 5 phones, which Virgin Mobile in the USA carries. Yep. So it's significant because it's one of the first relationships where we've seen one of these location-based platforms come pre-installed on a mobile device. It's not the first. They're trying to be out there talking about it as the first. So I'll say it's significant because it's Virgin. Virgin's owned by Sprint. It's a significant relationship, and it is one of the kind of somewhat hot phones in the marketplace at the moment. So that's kind of cool. But I say it's not the first because Looped has been on a number of devices with Metro PCS and other carriers since 2008. So this is, it's been around for a while, right? But yes, this is the golden handshake, to use your terms. I mean, where, you come pre-installed on a device, and it does lead to higher adoption rates. I mean, there's lots of data to back that up, not necessarily in the location-based world, but, apps coming pre-installed on a device just get used more. And often can result in serious revenues for the carrier.
Well, it's such credibility for Scavenger because of all the companies that are, so it's just one phone and it's an LG phone. So I don't mean to be, but it's an LG phone, right? They're still big manufacturer, but it's an LG phone. It's not like being pre-installed on iOS or a build of Android or even a micro Kia or Nokia soft phone, right? But one of the things that you've got is they say that it's going to be pre-installed right next to the YouTube app. So you get brand awareness that way, as well as the credibility to be set.
Yeah, sure. That there's that kind of placement. It's like the beverage alcohol companies fighting to see which tap is going to be in what place on the bar, right? So I don't know how much weight that carries, within a smartphone app placement, but yeah, I think being on that app is significant. And again, it's not, Looped has been there before, on an Android device, with Metro PCS. So, that is there. Foursquare is available for download from the Nokia OV store. Yep. So, these things are there. But it's the fact that it comes pre-installed and, you've got a higher, degree of opportunity for the user to give it a try anyways, right? So, I mean, some of the stats I saw, one survey I saw said that preloaded app generates 9.4 times the revenue for a carrier than one that you got to go and pull down yourself. So
frictionless. That's what they're looking for, is that they make it so that
easy. Make it easy,
really easy. And I'm a big fan of what Seth's doing, and I wonder if that kind of that C round that they did was validating for them, so that handset manufacturers can actually take a it's not such a risk to pre-install something like this.
Right.
Certainly with the funding and the investors that they've actually brought in, being Google and all. So great on Seth. Let's talk about our boys, the Gowalla boys, updating their platform.
And apparently we're about to hit 1 million users.
Oh, 1 million!
1 million users. So, good on them for sticking it out and trying to get there. Contrast that again with Foursquare's over 6 million now, and growing. So, but hey, they're going after different markets, right?
And contrast that with our 300 followers, right?
Yeah,
we'll be up to 1 million faster, I think, than
of
than
course.
Gowalla.
But it's to their credit, they say they're going on a different path. They're going in a different direction. We've talked about that before. They're focused on this kind of experience bookmarking, look and feel and positioning, and Foursquare's over here on gaming and deals, and so apparently they're going in different paths. So maybe that's the justification for 6 million versus 1 million. I don't know. Along with that announcement that they're about to hit 1 million, comes some new features or some enhancements, let's call it, to existing features.
Yeah.
Is it enough? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, I one of the things that that I look at when I see this is that when does Gowalla get bought? Like, I mean, when they crest 1 million users, they're still not an inconvenience to a lot of the guys. They're 1/6 the size of the leader. They're 1/500th the size of Facebook. But I keep saying their platform is incredible. Their user interface is awesome.
Technology and no, it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, the user interface is amazing. I just don't. I don't get what's holding these guys back. Honestly, is it? They don't have the right business development guys out there, shaking the trees and putting the deals together. What is it? Because, as you say, I mean, I think the user experience of the platform is so much better than Foursquare's, in my view.
Yep.
And so the potential is there.
I don't, this whole concept of a social atlas, it might sound great, but Foursquare can pivot in a second and be a social atlas to all of what they're doing. And I just saw this an interview tonight from Mobile World Congress with Crowley from All Things D, an interview with All Things D, and he was saying that Foursquare isn't a gaming platform. It's not what he wanted it to be. It's look, I'm in the middle of Barcelona and I want to know what to do. This is what I can do. I can reach out and I can see what people are recommending or where people are checking in and where the hubs are, and that's really what Gowalla is trying to become. And I say, like, it's hard to compete in a space where there's a commodity like this, which is just data, and the person with the most data is going to win ultimately if it's used properly.
Right. So whether or not this new this enhanced highlights feature they have added, where I don't even understand the name highlights personally, but
what you put in your hair,
whatever,
right?
That's what it's called, and so apparently you can take these spots. Their view of places are called spots. They've got some 2.5 million spots that have been logged in the Gowalla system, and apparently you can associate highlights with these things. So you can say things like, "This is my happy place," or WTF, or whatever. So they've created these kind of almost auto text, I'll call it, so that, so you don't have to type it out. So what?
I know, it's like emoticons. Like give me a smiley face.
The one good thing I saw in there was we actually have Google Maps integrated in there now.
Yeah, but
so
it's a step forward. But you know what's funny about it though is that I I listen to a lot of Leo Laporte stuff. Twit.tv and I tend to fall in his camp around these kind of things, which is a lot of these guys are trying to aggregate all this content. So my location, my photos, we're gonna host it all for you. We're gonna put it all in a place, and then it's gonna be like this digital experience of a location that you were at. And then we're going to jam everybody else's photos, and we're going to create this page that says, here's this digital experience of Disneyland or Disney World or Disney parks. And I'm a big Instagram user as well, and all these little apps like that kind of cement a place and time in your head where you were, and you take a picture of it. But I want to own that picture. I don't want to be contributing anymore to somebody else's good fortune.
Sure.
I take a picture of a location. I don't want it to just reside in Gowalla. I need it to reside outside of Gowalla, and I want to be able to do that without having to learn how to develop and using their API to pull it out. So
that's a fair point. Yeah.
We're creating those experiences. So there's got to be a better way. So maybe I'll include it in my Flickr account, but then link it up. So I'm already taking pictures and putting them places. Let's get beyond this. That's what I'm saying. Like, all these guys, just get beyond the sharing photo thing, because it's not working. And when I go to Gowalla and I click on a location, like I check New York City, just type in New York City as a location and go to some place that's popular, and it's like 200 people have checked in. It just seems small for them to be able to do this. That's the frustration with it. It's great technology, just whatever they're doing. It's a tough thing right now because they need to get more people using it, is the bottom line. I mean, and the only way you're going to do that is by, starting to kind of move and position and partner with big brands in some way. Maybe that's not deals. Maybe you got to find something else to do. Yep. But you need to draw a user base. You need to draw a consumer base in by bringing some value of some sort, right? And right now there's not a lot of value there, despite the fact that technology is better than most. Well, right now, Gowalla is competing with people who are using their API to build product, right?
Oh, I know.
So some, even our product of the day, I would look at it as a Gowalla competitor now, and it's probably leveraging Gowalla's open API to be able to feed that data. It's like, so you never want to be in competition with the people who are using your API.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Gowalla updates their platform. They're going to hit 1 million users. I hope the best for them, but again, this isn't a crap on Gowalla show. It's like we just want them to do something great with their great technology.
And again, we're available if they need help. So
we got 1,000 ideas, all positive. I love the platform. I use it. I don't use Foursquare because it's terrible as a user interface. So I'm probably killing the opportunity to get those guys to advertise with us, right? This is the opinion of mine, not of the LBMA. So let's move away from Gowalla and let's talk about AP, the Associated Press, moving into the ad space almost.
So a little different, but a little bit the same too, right?
Yeah.
So what's interesting here is you have, the Associated Press. You've got the news world kind of converging on location and trying to figure out how they get involved. And so, we've heard lots of hoopla about News Corp and Murdoch and, the iPad newspaper, the Daily. And who knows whether that thing is going to be successful or not. But, the interesting thing about it is that, with mobile devices everywhere, with tablets, going crazy, you got to think it's going to be successful. And you got to also think that part of that mix of what's going to make it successful is the ability to drive location-specific ads and content. And that's kind of what the Associated Press is playing on here as well. So they launched this thing called iCircular, which is an app available. I think it's only iPhone, but I could be wrong. Do you know, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's just iPhone. That's what I've got.
I think it's just iPhone. Yeah. So just to give you some numbers, that they threw out, they said, okay, inserted circulars in traditional newspapers. There's about 80 million circulars a week.
Yeah.
80 million a week in traditional newspapers, okay? And more interesting than that is they said that 28.4 million of those people that read those things are already on a mobile platform.
28.4 million.
Yeah. So the numbers are big. The numbers are big. And so what they're going after here is interesting because they're, so this is what I do like about what they've done is they've said, look, we're not here to push deals and coupons and all that kind of stuff. We're simply here to do the job of what the papers, the inserted paper circular does in traditional newspapers to do that in the mobile world.
Yeah.
And so what they've said is our goal is to deliver a circular into your mobile device that is local to where you are, that ultimately gets you to go to that store. Right? We're not here to say, here's 50 cents off this, or, come in today and here's a special on what. No, it's here's the circular, go to the store.
Yeah.
Right? It's very, very simple.
It's what coupons and circulars, well, since the dawn of time, since they've been using them, have been meant to do, which is not reward people for being in the store, but reward people for getting off their couch and going into a store. Yeah.
So, it achieves the function, that every retailer wants at the end of the day, which is, one of the functions that every retailer wants, which is footfall. We want to drive people to store, right? There's getting people to store, and then once the people are in the store, it's how do you keep them there longer and how do you get them to spend more, right? Those are the basic three things that we care about in retail. So, so their goal here with iCirculars is let's get more people to the store. Let's fulfill, the world of the inserted circular in the mobile platform. And they've added a few interesting social elements. So you can create shopping lists in the app. Your grocery list can be stored in the app, so that you can take that with you to the store. You can share things with friends. You can pass the circular around to friends. A la Facebook and other things. So there's a sharing element to it. But it's really all about how do we drive more people to the store. So good on them. Hopefully they get some adoption for it. But they are the Associated Press. So.
Well, yeah, and it's an AP, obviously the big brand, and there's talk. They're not the only company that's doing this or has been doing this. I gather there was a company that called Verve Wireless that bought a they bought a mobile advertising company called Deconstruct that does the same thing basically that the iCirculars do. But it's so obviously they had to make an announcement pretty quickly about what they were doing. But it's just is this? Let me ask you this. I don't know if this is a different twist on coupons, a different twist on the circular. Is this really still a company that's stuck in legacy mode, trying to bring what they do in a print world into the digital world? Do you think that this is actually going to work as a platform for this kind of thing, or is this just a shot in the dark here?
Well, here's the challenge. I think somebody like the AP in particular has, right? It is. Is Associated Press a consumer brand?
Yeah.
Is it a consumer brand? We know who it is, right? We know that brand.
Yep.
But do we actually, as consumers, do we buy anything from AP?
No.
That consciously make a decision to buy something from AP today?
Nope.
Even in the traditional print world, we don't, right?
No.
They're a B2B organization, right?
And it is, and so what do they engender enough trust to be able to allow us to feel comfortable with what it is that they're doing?
But I think the point there is that even though we don't have a buying relationship as consumers with the Associated Press per se, I think for most people we would say that we have a kind of a good feeling about the AP.
Yeah.
We don't have a negative connotation associated with the Associated Press, right?
Yeah.
It's a positive one, right? They bring us fantastic pictures of stuff happening in Egypt or whatever is going on around the world. That's how I know the AP. It's great pictures. And they pass that content on to the newspapers that we read, locally. So how the circulars come in and who's going to use this consumer app, I don't know, right? I think that's where does the AP start to have a relationship with the consumer public?
It's a tough thing, and maybe they're opening up themselves. They do have a positive brand image, and maybe they're opening themselves up to tarnishing that brand image if it's not done well, if this doesn't go very well. So I guess the jury will still be out on this, and we'll try to figure out what happens. As we'll be watching this. iCirculars is what it is by the Associated Press.
Right.
Interesting thing. Interesting time we live in. Right? So I think our last story that we'll approach here is this. As we're talking about these things, these value-added services, and we talked about Foursquare and obviously the Super Bowl. We talked about Gowalla and the travel side and their locations. And what about now this announcement that Yelp has come up with an ability to partner with OpenTable to be able to create reservations on the fly from your mobile device? what are your thoughts on this? Is this a good thing?
I mean, I think from a functional perspective, it's a great thing. I mean, but why only now? I mean, my question is, why now? I mean, this is, they've had this integration since, the summer on the web version of their service. Making reservations based on recommendations of restaurants inside the app just makes sense. To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, and I'm sure the Yelp user base has been asking for this for some time, from everything that I've read and comments I've read online. So, I mean, I just don't get what the big news is.
Well, I don't think it's big news, but it's one of two things. One of them is that they didn't see the need because if you're using your mobile, you're either on your way somewhere or you are somewhere, you're in front of some place. So do you need to generate a do you need to call somebody for a reservation, or do you need to set up a reservation through their system? So there's that side to it. But if you look at it, the positive spin, it's that, hey, you know what? People aren't at their desktop as much as they used to be, or their laptop. They're not using a traditional browser. They're using their mobile phone, even if they're in their office. So that's what we're seeing. I think that we're seeing that trend finally tip. It was announced last week that more PCs or more smartphones shipped than PCs did.
Yes.
So now that tipping point has happened, and maybe that's Yelp's way.
I agree. I think that's a fair point. That it is people are using mobile devices now more so than the web piece. So I think that's a fair point. But to answer your other point of where's the value beyond that, I do think there is other value here that is being overlooked. I mean, OpenTable on its own has a rewards program. You book so many reservations, you earn points. Those points are redeemable for cash vouchers at OpenTable restaurants. And I understand that's kind of extended to the existing Yelp relationship that exists on the web. So I assume that that will happen here. So my question then becomes, okay, how does Yelp participate in that in that money stream, right? Because I think there has to be a piece there. I mean, if people are going to go and do more and more of this and make reservations through their mobile device on Yelp, then hopefully Yelp's getting a piece of that reward cycle or that monetary side.
Well, it says that they're talking about how much the app has now grown in importance for Yelp, and in December, 3.2 million unique visitors use a Yelp mobile app, and so and the app also now accounts for 35% of Yelp searches, which is also how they generate the revenue, right? So, this is one of those things where the more functionality they add, it does a couple of things. It blocks out their competitors, right? If you
but except that to say that Urban Spoon, which is one of the competitors we can talk about, has had this integration for a while in their app. So. They're not a first mover here either.
Well, I wonder. It's maybe it's because they call it a senior startup. I don't know. They forgot. Who knows? But you're right. It's this should have been done a long time ago. It's not cutting edge. It's kind of a no-brainer. And now the question is again, how do you leverage that, and how do you generate some money? Right. A lot of these companies have got to generate some cash, and you hope that they do, because that's the whole premise of this industry, is that it can actually do a number of things, benefit the consumer and benefit the company. So good on Yelp for kind of waking up.
A good move. They had to do it, right? So
that was the week that was. So let's move right on to our product of the week.
Yeah, so the product of the week is something called Crowd Beacon, and you can get it at crowdbeacon.com. And according to Crowd Beacon's website, they would like to be the next Twitter. But who doesn't want to be the next Twitter? That's what I say. So what is it? It's crowdsourced, location-based answers to questions that you need answered. So the example that they give is they say, look, you've just moved into a neighborhood, you're looking for a good place to get a haircut, you're you want to find some place to grab some good wings, whatever it is, you're looking for, information that's specific to where you are, and that information is crowdsourced. So it's a little bit of Yelp. It's a little bit of
Facebook,
of Twitter.
Yep.
And I think the key thing here is that what makes it different than Yelp is that it's real time. For the most part, it's real time. So you pose a question, you get an answer, in real time, as opposed to you're looking through a bunch of recommendations that were done in the last 6 months. So I think that's a key element here. And then they supplement the user-generated content via sucking in data from Yelp and Foursquare and Twitter and Goala and everybody else via APIs. So it's a combination of stuff all mashed together.
Well, I love the concept of this. Which is you need a place to go. You want to find out if what's playing locally, a band, or what's playing live. And it is crowdsourced and it is real time. But if there's nobody there to answer, if you don't get a response, they said that they'll respond. Right. So this is what they'll do. Is that it's like they call it like your own little concierge on your device. And I think that that's a really intriguing concept, right? Where you're putting the human factor back into this, and it's not just automated. It's not just a review that's placed up online. It's actually somebody saying, "Hey, I'd recommend this." So
so I think that's where it's a little bit of Twitter, right? It's a little bit of that kind of real time. Who's there right now? Who can tell me what's going on? Should I come check this concert out or not?
So the challenge is that Twitter has 200 million people,
right?
And these guys don't. So
but it's different, right? I mean, this is like the super filtered Twitter. This is like the single column in TweetDeck. In TweetDeck, right? That's what this is, really.
Yeah. Well, it is
but
good.
Location specific.
I like this kind of thing, and I think that this is something that Facebook should be doing much more than it is with their places and deals, because you're crowdsourcing your friends and you're getting a little bit more of an intimate recommendation. But I do like what they're doing here, and they do have a great frequently asked questions, and I brought this up, and this is not an alarm, but a lot of people come to me, and I'm sure they do to you, and they ask me, are we in a bubble? Are we in a mobile bubble here? Is this kind of 10 years ago web style? And I defend this as no. This is what we're doing. This is a step change. This is a technology revolution. This is bigger than the PC and the internet combined. And I don't mean to sound hypey, but then I read something like this in the frequently asked questions. And if I was CrowdBeacon, I would get rid of this. So here's my advice to you, CrowdBeacon: get rid of this, where it says that how do you make money? And they say we don't care about money. We care about the service, and we care about getting as many users as possible. This sounds like the old eyeballs argument of 99, 2000, and we all know where that ended. So my only thing about CrowdBeacon, work on trying to figure out how you're going to make some money. Because if people are going to adopt this, they have to feel comfortable that you're going to be around in a number of days or weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And to your other comment, I don't think it's a bubble at all. I think this is a sustained period of technological innovation and growth, and I think we're going to see a constant move upward in terms of what we can do, physically, emotionally, and mentally, all those things coming together. I think there's a lot happening in terms of bringing technology, and marrying that up with the human side, the human interface. I think there's a lot coming. Honestly, as a guy who used to watch a lot of sci-fi, it's somewhat scary to see some of this stuff come real. But it's coming. It's coming.
You can thank Gene Roddenberry for that. Is that did you ever think that you'd be carrying a tablet around, or that be always connected to a massive network wherever you went?
Or even teleportation. I saw a guy actually teleport something from one side of the room to the other day.
This is crazy.
in a lab. So there you go.
Well, I love this, I agree that I mean, what we're doing here is we're constantly testing new business models, and CrowdBeacon is one of those. And I think that you're going to see a derivative of what CrowdBeacon is in some other product where there's scale and there's enough people to make this actually worthwhile. But it's the same thing that you see a lot of these companies that are out there, like Quora, that are flash in the pan, Groupon, flash in the pan things where, and I put that in there for a reason. that are especially Quora and FormSpring, where the content is so dependent on users contributing for free,
right?
Their content, right? That's what Quora is. That's a risk to me.
Ariana Huffington might disagree with you.
Yeah, I know.
Given she just sold her company for a whack of cash. But anyways.
But it's true. Like there are corner cases, but when you have to rely on people who you're not paying.
Right. No, I know.
That's a big risk.
Apparently they're going to have to start paying those people now. So
yeah, that's the challenge. Right? As soon as when you sell for 300 million, 350 million, I think you got to start forking over some cash.
Yeah, I think so.
So
share the wealth.
Crowdbeacon.com. Go and check it out. Download it. Become a resource for your local area, and see what happens with that company. But please, CrowdBeacon, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, I love the idea. I love the concept, but just bring in that revenue piece so that I don't have to put all the effort into one company and then have to switch it over to another one like I did with FormSpring and Quora. Please, God, be around.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our resource of the week. It's not the Grammys. It's something else.
The resource of the week is the latest audience research from Jywire. And so Jywire is very, very good at taking the data that they collect from their vast Wi-Fi network and mobile data network. And so they publish that almost every quarter. And so this is Q4 2010 results that have recently come out. And just to give you some of the quick numbers, they say that location-based ads are driving mobile shopping. 17% of mobile consumers are making a purchase. 20% are visiting physical store locations after seeing an ad delivered over that mobile device. So some pretty big numbers there. The one that blew me away: 78% use location-based apps on their phone. So what worries me about that number is you contrast that with 8% of people are using location-based apps according to Pew. So so who knows about that? But some of these numbers are pretty fantastic. 29% of people are using location-based apps more than once a day.
That's impressive.
So, and lastly, another number I pulled out here: 34% clicked on an ad in response to a location-specific message. So, very, very, very positive numbers all around in support of location-based services and people's willingness to use them.
It's funny though that one of the things that struck me, which was very interesting, was the what information are you interested in receiving within these location-based services, and it was a tie and this just goes against everything that I just said about Gowalla. But store locations is obviously key, and that's why Google is playing into this local search very, very clearly. But points of interest was that these were both tied at 42%. Points of interest, and then checking in was third, which obviously.
Right.
There's no reason to check in unless there's a sales promotion or coupon, which was fourth at 26%. 22% said none, not interested at all.
Right.
And any information to receive. 21% said reviews. 12% said to connect with others. And then this is an interesting one, which I think is going to be the future. Product inventory. 10% checked in for product inventory and 3% checked in for other. And that 10% that checked in for product inventory is the number that I think has a huge opportunity for growth. And I think that's that plays right into Jywire's sweet spot, right? Because they acquired that company, What's Nearby, integrated that inside of the Jywire system, and that system ties directly into retailers' inventory, allows you to actually put a product on hold to go pick it up at the store. So absolutely, I think that idea of kind of inventory, real-time inventory tracking, is the product there, who's got it, can I go get it, can you put it on hold, all of that is part of this, right? So but even product inventory, and you learn this from the guys at VaynerMedia that did this thing with Gowalla and the New Jersey Nets, is that product inventory to me is something that can be in store, or it can be something that expires, like an open table in a restaurant. And and you start to think about the possibility about what we talked about before with CrowdBeacon trying to find a restaurant spot, or even we were talking about trying to figure out if there's a way to get into a location or buy a ticket to something. That's really where I think this is very powerful. Is that if I'm standing in the middle of New York City and I'm hungry, it's 8 o'clock. The likelihood of me getting into a restaurant is very low on a Saturday night. But I'd love to be able to pull up an app and see what kind of inventory is around me. 2 tables open, 1 table open, 30-minute wait, 20-minute wait.
Yeah.
Book a reservation, do that thing. So in Yelp even. And that's really where I think that there's some real value. So whoever's going to be working on that, it's huge integration. It's impossible. But when you talk about product inventory, I'm not talking just about retail. I'm talking about absolutely.
No, I agree with that notion too. And also too, like I was talking to another guy this week about, what is a location, and is a location even, a place, fixed.
Yep.
Could a location be something that's moving, like a bus?
Yep.
Or a train?
Yep.
Or a plane? It's interesting, right? I mean, so can you actually check into something that's moving?
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
It's going to change the way that we think of things, and especially when, the other numbers are standard, are expected, and are going to grow, but it's that next wave around what it is that we're checking into, and what it is that you can see once you've checked into a location. I think that's.
Right.
This is what excites me.
For those who want to see the Jywire data in more detail, you can actually get it off the LBMA website. So just go to the lbma.com /research, and you'll see that report there.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's worthwhile. Go and peruse it. You'll see some nuggets. And for those of you who are interested in innovating in this industry, you'll look further down the right-hand side of all these columns, the small numbers. Focus on those, not the big numbers. Focus on the small numbers and make those small numbers bigger. That's what innovation is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob.
Great session, Asif. We'll see you next week for obviously the 13th episode of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. My name is Rob Woodbridge, Untether.tv, sitting here with Asif Khan from the lbma.com, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Happy Grammys.
Thanks for watching. What's that?
Happy Grammys.
Happy Grammys. That's right. Gotta go watch.
Go Bieber.
Go Bieber. Bieber Buble. We'll see you next week.